And the easiest way I can say that is by just making your brand a person in your mind when you're trying to develop it. Think of it as a person that you might meet at a party or a person that you're talking to. Picture yourself in your audience's shoes and see how they'd feel talking to your business if it was a person. I know it sounds a little bit far-fetched, but if we can make our businesses more people-like, then we're going to connect to people. If we can make our businesses have emotions and have clear values and missions and really define your service, people can understand that. They can connect to your brand on that emotional level. And that's what we're trying to do here.
Welcome to the Impact Driven Entrepreneur, the podcast that helps you expand your reach and convert that reach into clients so you can lead your tribe with confidence and create change in the world while living the life you desire. And now your host, certified business coach and consultant, Mariana Ruiz.
Hey there, and welcome to the Impact Driven Entrepreneur podcast. In this episode, I'm talking with Kate Remmer all about the 5 essentials to building a brand that stands out online. Let's dig right in. Welcome back to the Impact Driven Entrepreneur. Today I have Kate Remmer. She is a branding and design alchemist for busy entrepreneurs. Welcome, Kate.
Hi there. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. So tell us a little bit about how you got started with branding and design, and then we can get into some fun tips.
Yeah, sounds good. I actually graduated university with a degree in management information systems and advertising. So it kind of ties into where I am now. But as you do when you graduate from uni, most of the time you don't end up doing what you went to school for. So I kind of went off on a buying tangent and ended up being a buyer for quite a few years and product development too. But then after I had my kids, it kind of shed new light on what do I want to do? What do I want to be? And I just kind of reconnected with my passion for all things art and design and connecting with people and advertising and culminating that in with really strong branding and design together. So that's kind of how I got to be back in this role.
Love that.
So branding in general is kind of how you want people to perceive your brand or your business. And kind of how I look at it is a long time ago, people used to, a logo would have been fine, maybe a couple colors and a tagline, and people would have been happy, would have recognized your brand. It would have been fine. But long gone are the days where people would just go down the high street and that was all they had that was available to them. Nowadays, we are just absolutely inundated with messages, with imagery, social media. There's a lot more to cut through. And people have a lot more options at their fingertips, really. They've got the ability to go anywhere online in the world and pick out what they want. So they aren't necessarily stuck to going down the high street anymore. So gone are the days where just a logo and a tagline are going to do it for you. People really, really, really use their emotions to make purchases. So it might not, I always say this, but it might not relate to toilet paper. But if you're making a bigger purchase like a house or something, the higher ticket value, you're going to use your emotions. You're going to want to go visit that house. And can I see myself cooking in the kitchen? Can I see myself sleeping in that bedroom? It's a very emotional decision. And you want people to look at your business and have an emotional connection with you. So it goes far, far beyond just demographics. Is it male, female, ages, all that stuff? Although that is important to know that about your clients, you need to really learn how to kind of stand out from the clutter, really. So formulating a really, really strong brand is really important. And I've had a lot of clients come to me where they've just tried to kind of wing it with the logo and maybe some color and just thought, oh, that'll be good enough and just get out there, which I totally get. But then they've realized, oh, that's actually not helping me out and I'm not really standing out from the crowd. So what I like to do is I kind of like to formulate a personality for your brand, because in so many businesses, especially if you're like a coach or service-based, but also if you have products, I think it's really important that you can connect to people on that emotional level. So treating your brand or your business like it's a person becomes a lot more understandable psychologically for the consumers. So if you can create a really authentic brand that's just totally 100% true to you, and you know that you're unique, everybody here is unique. We all have something unique to offer. And if you can really let that shine through and connect that to your brand, then that's a way of standing out of the crowd. That's a way of, even if the market is saturated, everybody has something to offer. And by being really authentic in your branding, it gives you kind of that edge up. And really good branding acts like a filter as well. It filters out the people that just aren't going to be the right fit for you. And that's really good because then you can attract the people that are the right fit for you, the people that really want to come to you for what you have to offer, and the people who are, to be fair, going to be willing to pay you the right amount for your services as well. So there's a lot to it, but at the essence of it, it's really the foundation of your business. And if you don't define that and get really clear about that, then what's going to make a consumer or your audience, what's going to make them choose you over someone else? You're not going to stand out.
Love that. Love that. And I love how you added the aspects of messaging. Like that is my jam. But when it comes to the visual and like how that translates, that's kind of where I get stuck. So like there's a lot like that you said. So I want to dissect that. Like how, I mean, that's kind of like just your magic, right? Like of how does somebody go from the words, like let's say you are better with words or you kind of understand what you want, but then visually you get stuck on like how to translate it.
Well, what I like to do with my clients is I kind of like to, first of all, kind of define a personality. So we can do this through taking personality quizzes. There's loads of them online. And I could even recommend a couple at the end of the podcast too. But basically what I like to do is because we're such multifaceted people, we all are. We all have like a wide range of emotions and stories and histories and likes and dislikes. And our clients or our potential audience, they're exactly the same. So what I like to do is I like to sit down and get you to really hone in on the top 2 kind of major personality traits that you have, and then try to translate that to your brand. So rather than like trying to be all to everybody or trying to appeal to everybody, what you really want to do is say, okay, do I have a caretaking personality, or am I a really entertaining person? And I try to just take that and then put that at the top of the level and then go from there and decide, okay, so if I'm somebody who really likes to entertain and I believe life is short and I want to show that through my branding, then I take that at the top and then I split that down into 2 separate categories. So you have your visual content and you have your verbal content. Now, some people are great with their visual and struggle with their verbal or vice versa. And a jumping off point for me would really be to just see what's out there. I mean, there are loads and loads of resources at our fingertips. I would look at archetypes. So if you go to archetypes.com, there's lots and lots of information about different personality traits. And what I would do is I would just read up on information about, okay, so let's say you're a caretaker and you are a life coach and you want to portray that, and that's your strongest personality trait. Then I would, first of all, I would go in and just see into archetypes.com or a website that's similar to that and read about the caretaker. What do they like? What do they do? Start to pick up visual and verbal hints and clues from that. You can go on Pinterest and type in caretaking personalities or things like that. And just you get a whole slew of visual imagery that comes in towards you or Google Images or anywhere really. And you start to look, instead of just looking for anything you like visually to put with your brand, you start to notice a pattern. So if you type in something like caretaker into Google Images, you get a bunch of Google Images that come up, and just start to take a little higher level approach and start to look, oh, what am I seeing here? I'm seeing a lot of these types of colors, and I'm seeing a lot of, okay, so I see a lot of hearts, or I see a lot of these visual elements, or whatever it might be, and start to pick out and start to notice at a higher level some of the common threads that you can find between all of the imagery, and take that as a really big hint that that's the road you need to go down. And it's the same for your verbal content too. It's finding, what do people talk about? What are the kind of words they're using in this particular type of branding, or this particular personality, I should say. And what are the way they're speaking? How do I speak? How can I make sure the way that I speak is portrayed in this in a caring way, if it's the caretaker archetype? And just kind of go from there so that you can kind of form this brand that people can understand. People need to know you, they need to like you, and they need to trust you. And if they can understand how you're going to behave as a brand, they understand that you're a caretaker brand, they can see that visually, they can see that from your verbal content, and you're really, really, really consistent across everything, across your websites and your Facebook ads and the way that you live your brand, the way that you're showing up in your Facebook lives, and even down to your business cards and your logo. Your logo is important. I don't want to say that it's not, but it's a part. It's a piece of the bigger puzzle.
Love that. That is such a good idea. Okay, so let's do 2 roads because I think that we have a little bit of 2 different audiences kind of listening.
Okay.
So we have some people that are just so new and they are definitely DIYing it.
Yeah.
Like you said, I think that gave them a lot of tips like for what to do. Mm-hmm. Search Pinterest, take personality tests. I totally found that every time I took some sort of self-assessment or personality test, mm-hmm. I started to learn more about myself. And that was reflected in not only my branding visually, but my messaging as well, like what I wrote about. And I was able to like also just stand and own it a little bit more. Like,
Yeah, definitely.
especially like I'm an INTJ. That's my Myers-Briggs, and it's actually pretty rare, and it's even more rare for women.
Mhm.
So I always felt really odd or like this weird person. And so learning about myself allowed me to just kind of like be okay with who I am and
Yeah,
my own quirks of like my weird stuff that I like and just
absolutely.
totally.
Well, the thing is, like, if you can find that, if you find something that you think is weird, or you feel like, oh my gosh, I don't want people to see this side of me, take another look at it, flip it on its head, because you might find that that's a really rare thing in your industry. And that might help you be the key to sticking out, to standing out, you know?
Yeah. And like, so Kate is doing my rebrand right now. So one of the questions that you asked me like completely changed my point of view of like what I do. So you asked me something like, what are your strong opinions or something about where you work or like how you do the thing you do. So for me, like one of my really, really strong opinions, and I'm going to swear, but I hate fake fish. Like I hate it. And for me, like that was so key. So before I was like, yeah, I like authenticity. And like I was really like dancing with the idea,
Hmm.
but I didn't like fully own it until you gave me that question. And I was like, oh my God, I really like this is the thing. And that's
Hmm.
partially, and I hate to like bash an entire platform, but like I cannot connect on Instagram. Like
Mm,
I have a following there, but I really struggle with, like I said, the visual, the images, and like the fake
yeah.
stuff. Like, I'm not going to take a picture in front of a car, like pretend it's mine. I mean, like, that is so against what I
Yeah.
like and what I believe. So, for me, it really got me curious about those strong opinions. And then not only that, but like giving myself permission kind of to like talk about that
Yeah.
and own it and be okay with it.
Absolutely. I think as women, we just do this anyways, unintentionally. I don't think till maybe someone points it out, we realize that we do it, but we have so many balls in the air and we're always trying to appease everybody. And I kind of think we tend to do the same thing with our business rather than just saying, okay, I hate fake stuff and I'm not going to be fake and whatever. We kind of tend to hold back on that a bit because we think we're going to lose people if we do this or do that, or we're not going to attract people. And right now we need the money or we need the followers or whatever it might be. And I don't want to be, well, just do this. I'll say this or whatever, just to feel like you're people pleasing, really. But sometimes we don't realize we do it. Sometimes it just takes stepping back a bit and being like, well, actually, that's really not my personality, or actually, that's really not me. And sometimes it takes doing a rebrand to see that.
Or we got in, like, bought into the idea that, like, we have to do that because we
Yeah,
should, because so and so made $20 million on Instagram.
exactly. Exactly.
So it's like, oh my God. So, whatever that might be for you, like, permission granted, just do the thing you love and that you like.
Oh my God. And just be you, because at the end of the day, people love that. They're not buying the products. I mean, they're coming to you because they're curious about what you do and they think that you can help them, but they're buying you. They're buying into you. That's what they're buying into. There's a billion people that probably offer the same thing that you do, but they're coming to you because they see something in you. They see that they can connect, especially if you're in coaching or, something where you're working one on one together, the markets aren't, they're saturated, but there's a place for everybody as long as you can show, hey, this is what I'm all about. You will find somebody that will connect with that, someone who will really love that.
Totally. So, what you do with branding is help people to show the side of them that is really them, and then also is still attractive to the wider audience, right?
Exactly. Like I said, we're all really, really multifaceted. I struggle to do my own branding. It's so easy and clear for me to see it for other people. But like some life coaches need their own life coach, mentors need their own mentors. And it's the same for me. It's no different because some people, we do struggle thinking, oh, well, I like so many different things. And oh, how do I portray this to everybody? I like this, but I'm so different. I like this kind of music, but I'm all the way over here and all this stuff. But that's why I suggest if you're going to do it and you're going to want to make your brand really authentic, you have to have a really clear message. So by picking your top one or two personality traits and really just making them shine, because they are part of you, they are part of who you are. but really just focusing on that and showing up as that and weaving that into your verbal content and weaving that into your visual content and being really consistent with it, because then people understand how you are. They get it. They can understand how you're going to behave. They trust. That builds trust. And it carves out your particular little corner of your market. It gives you space. If that makes sense.
Totally. Love that. And I think you said something really important there about the consistency. So one of my programs is called Consistently Visible Solution. And it's like all about that, like maintaining your consistency, even amongst chaos, like amongst life. Like it's all about automating systems to expand your reach so that you can increase your customer base. But one of the things that I noticed is like in my coaching class. So at the time of this recording, I'm still in coaching classes. So by the time this airs, I will already be certified. But anyways, one of the teachers there was like, oh my gosh, Mariana, I always know it's you posting just from your image, because I've been so consistent with using the same type of images, the same like style, which does make it a little scary with the rebrand, right? Like with how are we going to shift things? But at the same time, it's really interesting to see that somebody recognized me, my podcast, everything that we do, just from seeing a glimpse of a part of an image of ours. Like, it was really, really cool.
Oh my gosh, definitely. And the thing is, branding evolves, because if you're giving your brand a personality, you're kind of in a way looking at your brand and treating it like it is a person, like it has a personality. Well, people evolve and your brand's going to evolve too. I mean, my suggestion is that you nail down some basic core values of your brand and some core messages. So that will always stay consistent. But things change too. You can't do all of this stuff for your branding and then save it and have it for like 10 years when everybody else down the road's gone well beyond that. You have to keep up with the times too. And your brand will evolve over time. But if you can have a lot of consistency and you can choose some classic elements with your brand, you can always make updates to it too. You have to keep up with the times, or people aren't going to look at you like you don't do much with your business, that you don't take care of yourself. And that's important to clients too.
Totally. Okay, so I feel like this is a good transition point for like, let's say we've been in business a little while and you are thinking of doing like a bigger kind of rebrand, kind of like how I'm in the process of doing. Like, as you shift, like how do you gracefully shift? Because as I mentioned on a Facebook Live recently, I feel like I'm moving a ship. Like a ship is like in a trajectory, because I have several platforms. I have several places I post on social media. I have my website. So like, how do we kind of shift the boat gracefully?
Well, I think that you've done a really great job by staying true to you, by talking to your group, by talking to your following, by saying, hey guys, guess what? I'm making a shift. You can make a shift too. And here's what's happening, because there's nothing worse than if you have a big group of people who know and they like you and they trust you and they're following you. And all of a sudden, wham, bam, totally everything's gone. Everything's different. It's better to do it in phases, because I think people get used to the idea and then they feel like they're included in on it a little bit. And you could even include them on certain things. Hey, I'm looking for my last color. What do you think? Or whatever it is. But I think if you've established yourself as a business and you have a group of people who are following you, they're following you because they like you. They're following you because they've bought into you. Otherwise, they wouldn't be there. They would have just moved on. So if you're honest with them, like you're doing, if you're honest with them and you just say, hey guys, I'm making some changes, here's why, and you're really just open and honest with them and you just keep them cued in, I think they'll be really excited to see what you come up with next. And it'll probably give them some hints and tips, and you can lead by example.
Totally. Yeah. And I want to just talk a little bit about how we're doing that with the phases, if you're okay with that. So here's what happened. We are doing some launches right now, and I just got back from a conference and had all this clarity about my new branding, my new messaging, and everything that I wanted to do. And it kind of all happened together. Like I had a photo shoot right before the conference, and then I got the photos back like the week I got back. So it felt like you said, like the balls in the air, like lots of balls up in the air. And so what we decided to do is do the website coming out in different phases. So like phase number 1 is like the podcast is going to be updated with the name first. Then we're going to do the Facebook group, social media slowly continue to launch, because that's ultimately how we continue to make money in the business, right?
Yeah.
So not like stopping to do this all, like you said, in the back, hiding,
Yeah.
but including that in the changes. So that's going to be phase one is like the visual stuff. And then we're going to do the copy. And then the last one is updating because I have over 100 blog posts. So all of that past content also will need to be updated or shifted or deleted or whatever. So we can do that lastly. And over time, it doesn't have, I mean, you will find mom entrepreneur stuff on my website for a while. That's okay.
Yeah, you will. I mean, it's a transition. You're not stopping one and starting the other. It's a transition. And especially if you decide to rebrand like you are, and you've already really established yourself as a business, you have a lot of blog posts, you have invested quite a bit, either financially or just physically with like your logos, your colors, all of that stuff. It's going to take time to switch. And that's why I tell people too that why I always try to find out, why are you rebranding? Was it just because that you saw a bunch of logos on Pinterest and you thought they looked really cool and you just think yours needs to be updated? I mean, you have to really think carefully about, is your message really changing? What is it you don't like about your branding? Because it is quite involved. There is a lot to change, especially if you are where Mariana is in your business. If you're starting out and you're just still trying to kind of feel your way through it, well, then that's okay. But if you've invested in t-shirts or decals for your van or whatever it is, that's a lot to change. And you're better off doing it in phases so that people can still contact you. They can still go to your website and find your information. So it's entirely up to you, really. But I think that people like to be included, and I think they like to be able to still have access to you.
Love that. Love that. And you're doing a rebrand right now too, right?
Yes. Yes, I am doing a rebrand. I think that's because I struggle a bit because, like I said, mentors need their own mentors. And, even branding people need their help with their branding because I have a hard time seeing through all the stuff that I like. I can see it for other people. That's easy. But for myself, sometimes it's hard to pick. And also being a designer, there's so much I love. There's so much out there that I love, but I'm trying to hone it in for myself too. And I'm really trying to hone in on my personality and trying to let go of certain things that I like, because you can't be everything that you like. You have to be quite focused so your message is focused. So that's what I'm doing right now.
Yeah, I think that happens to all of us because here's the thing, you're an expert, right? So you also kind of tend to overthink things in your specific specialty, right? So
yeah, definitely.
This kind of a little bit of a morbid example, but when I worked in brain surgery, I had a brain surgeon who was having surgery. And
oh my God.
Yeah, it was really tough because he wanted to be the one giving me orders. And I was like, no, you're the patient this time. And it was really hard for him because he knew everything that was going on and he knew the problems he was having in his brain, which luckily he was like lucid enough to know what was happening with his brain. But it was just so interesting to, and it's the same thing. I mean, like this happens no matter what your specialty is. So like, there's no shame in that. Like that's totally normal. And we just know so much that it can feel overwhelming for sure.
You do. And I think sometimes you just need to take kind of a bird's eye view or a macro kind of look at your business, at your message, your voice, and who your audience might be might change too. It's not just your brand that's going to evolve. Who you're selling to is going to change too. So that has an impact on your message and how you want to speak to them and all sorts. And it's not one of those things that you can just do it, dust your hands off, done. And if it changes, that's okay. And you shouldn't feel bad about that either, because in business, as we all know, you have to pivot sometimes. Sometimes you try something and it's just not working. And sometimes you just have to think, okay, I'm going to try something else then. I would recommend with branding anyways, that as long as you kind of keep the same values, keep the same core, and try to keep some of the same elements, because you do want people to recognize your brand. You do want them to have that trust factor. And if you're changing your branding every 2 seconds, then you're not going to build that up. So you have to balance it. It's a balancing act, really.
Love that. Love that. Okay, so you talked about the visual aspects. Like, how do people even start to define those core values? Like, if I'm like, I don't know what they are, or how do I discover them in myself? Like, how would you help somebody with that?
I think I just kind of take a look at my own personal values. Like for me, for example, it's really important to me that my clients are happy, that I'm honest in my business. That's really important to me, that I'm giving them the best information that I can give. There's a lot of different values that you can have. If you look at some brands that are like Red Cross, well, their values are helping and serving the world, really. They really kind of hone in on those values. So it's just about being kind of transparent and just saying like, hey, this is what I care about, or hey, this is what I stand for. And people can read that. They get that. They think, oh, okay, yeah, I can gel with that. That works for me. I feel the same. And I would just look at your personal values really and try to translate that somehow into your brand so that people can kind of understand what you're all about. And the easiest way I can say that is by just making your brand a person in your mind when you're trying to develop it. Think of it as a person that you might meet at a party or a person that you're talking to. Picture yourself in your audience's shoes and see how they'd feel talking to your business if it was a person. I know it sounds a little bit far-fetched, but if we can make our businesses more people-like, then we're going to connect to people. If we can make our businesses have emotions and have clear values and missions and really define your service, people can understand that. They can connect to your brand on that emotional level. And that's what we're trying to do here. We're not just trying to say, oh, you want to attract women from the ages of 25 to 45 who are single and whatever. And those are very important things. I'm not saying they're not. But if you can define your values, you're going to connect to people on that emotional level. And especially if you're selling higher ticket items too.
Yeah.
The more you can connect to them on that level, the better off you're going to be.
Yes. And also makes for much better Facebook ad targeting.
Yeah. Which you're the expert in, not me.
When you said that, because that's the first thing I get when I'm either running ads for somebody else or like a client wants to run ads for themselves. I'm like, who are you targeting? Women age 20 to 60. No. Like, you're going to spend a lot of money and not really get anywhere. So,
yeah.
Okay. So that is really, really helpful. And I also wanted to talk about the values because like how I'm seeing the values also show up right now in my stage of business. And I just want to share that is like when you start to hire a team. So the values is like how I screen people that I work with and who I hire either as like freelancers or to actually work consistently all the time in my business. So I want to just like express the importance of the values and how else you might use it. Like it's going to translate through your whole business, basically.
Yeah. And I mean, it's how you live your brand, isn't it really? It's how you are in every corner of your brand. So from advertising to, how you treat people. Absolutely. It translates into the kind of services you offer and the extra bits, the extra mile that you're willing to go. And everything, any which way you're communicating through your business, anything that comes out your business door into the wider world needs to be communicated in a consistent and value-driven way because that's your business and that's how people are going to view you.
Love that. That's awesome. So any final like parting words to help somebody out, like who is looking to improve their branding or anything we haven't covered so far?
I would just, if I kind of just run down a list, I would just kind of define your values and try to find a way to translate that into your brand. I would try to come up with a purpose or a mission, kind of what is it ultimately you're trying to do with your business and your brand. And then it's really important to figure out how you're going to serve people because how you serve people says so much about you and your business. It's not just about attracting people, it's serving people. And like I said in my example before, there can be 10 of you lined up and they could be deciding, what's my deciding factor? Who am I going to pick to go with for my life coach? And they might choose someone based purely off the fact that they're offering a lot more service or they're going the extra mile or they're showing really that they're caring or they're compassionate about their clients. People see that. They want that. They want to be listened to. They want to be taken care of. So I think the service is such a huge part of it. And then obviously, like I had said earlier, defining your branding personality. Base it off your own personality. And this is really important if you're a service-based business, but it is also important if you have products as well. And even if you have a team working for you, your business should have a personality because that's how people connect. People can understand people. People connect to people. And if your brand is like a person, that's how they can connect to it. And then don't just take a look at your branding side of things. Think also about their perceptions. If you've defined all of this, if you've defined your values and your purpose and your mission and your service, step away from that and think, okay, so if I'm a consumer or I'm part of your audience, how am I going to view that? Is it coming across in all the different kind of communication? Is it coming across in the imagery? Does it even go with the colors that you've chosen? Does your logo kind of say that same thing? Step outside of your brand from your audience's perception or point of view and see what their perceptions are of your brand, because that says it all. And then also you need to address your audience's desires and their fears and their dreams and their hopes in a way that only you can do it. That's what makes you authentic. Find out what it is they really want. What are they afraid of? And what are they hoping to be, or what are they hoping to get from your services? You need to get inside their shoes and answer that too. And that just pull it all into one big kind of package. I mean, like I said, it will evolve. You always keep an eye on it. It's not something you just set up in the beginning and then you just let it go. You always have to keep it going because it's really the heart of your business, the foundation or the heart of your business.
Love that. Oh my gosh, that was so helpful. I was feverishly typing up some notes, which we can include with the episode. And that will be at marianacruiz.com/podcast, or just click on the podcast tab, or I'm not really sure where it will be because by the time this is out, we'll be at a new brand new website. So who knows, but just click on the show notes tab and we can link it up. So we'll have a full list for you in case you're like driving and you can't take notes or anything like that. Thank you so much, Kate. And where can people find you? Share any freebies or anything that you want to share at this time.
Yeah, well, that's great. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. It feels good to get the message out there, and hopefully I've helped people understand what branding is. I have a freebie mini branding journey to kind of help get you on your way to developing your personality. I am taking it down in probably a week's time, but you can get to it by going to my website, which is www.studioktr.co.uk. But I will be replacing it with something that's related to branding and related to finding your personality as well. So if you don't get there in time before I take it down, I will be replacing it with something else. But otherwise, feel free anytime to email me at kate@studioktr.co.uk. And I'm willing to answer any of your questions and give you a heads up. Or if you're stuck or struggling with something, give me a call, give me an email.
Thank you so much. This has been awesome. Is there like a single action step maybe they can do to like kind of one thing that they can do this week to improve their brand?
Yeah, I mean, what I would do at the very, very, very base of trying to improve your brand is I would get out there and take a personality quiz. Like I said, you can do it at archetypes.com. Just go out there and just see, because like I said, it's really hard when we're all kind of multifaceted to kind of really hone in on the top one or two kind of elements of your personality. So if I were you, I would go and take that personality quiz and see, okay, where do I fall? What's the biggest percent? What is my personality in the biggest percent? And then maybe take the second one too and see if you can kind of figure out a way to combine them. But that's a jumping off point because you can't really go into your visual or your verbal elements or anything else kind of until you've figured out who am I and what am I trying to portray? So that would be my jumping off point.
Love that. Thank you so much for giving such amazing, generous knowledge and content. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You're awesome.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on. Okay, so have an awesome day, everybody, and we will chat with you in the next episode. You've been listening to the Impact Driven Entrepreneur podcast. Did you like this episode? I know I learned a ton even as I was recording this episode with Kate. And if you learned something from this episode or you know somebody that would benefit from listening to this, please go ahead and share it with a friend. I would really, really appreciate it. It helps other people as well as it helps the show to continue to grow and be here for you. And then I also want to remind you that this is the second episode out of a series of 3 episodes, all designed around helping you to stand out online. The first episode was the last one, which is episode number 13 with Kate McCarthy, infusing who you are into how you show up online. And then the next one is next week. I'm going to be talking with Amy Walsh about unleashing your creative genius. She is a visual storytelling expert, and she is fantastic at what she does. We uncovered some really, really cool things about how to really, really get to the core of your visual storytelling and just get creative and really allow creativity to lead you in your business. So be sure to hit subscribe so that you get the updates for that one. Have an awesome day.